right?
Hey,
Okay.
welcome.
You can do it if you want. I
Why
can
don't
do
you
it.
do it this time?
Okay, yes. Welcome back. Welcome back to the Anything Goes Hokkaido podcast. I'm Shinya.
I'm Delana.
Yes, and today we got a juicy, spicy topic. It's gonna go quite a bit in depth. So, it's talking about education. So, mainly about Japanese education, how it relates or corresponds to our education that we had in Australia and America. Sort of comparing that a little bit, as well as the whole Japanese system, and of course the other things like costs, maybe a little bit of talking about discrimination and how it compares to the world when it gets to university. So quite a few different topics there. So of course starting at preschool, or we can say daycare. So in Japan we have this thing called hoikuen or yochien. So the only difference is that I think, or most people think, is that hoikuen is the government-run daycares, and the yochien is private or are private daycares. So in Japan,
Actually, I think there's a little differentiation there.
As well.
Well, Hoikuen, I'm not sure if it has to be government-run, although they often are. But that is like a daycare where parents drop off the kids early morning, pick them up pretty late while they're working. Whereas Yochien is more like a preschool, which tends to run between maybe 9 a.m. to about 3 or 4 in the afternoon. There might be some after-school programs, but it tends to be more of like a daily set school schedule. And it tends to be more focused on kind of educating like kindergarten would in America. Whereas the Hoikuen daycare is, I'm sure they have a lot of educational activities, but it's more just like babysitting or keeping the kids while the parents work.
All right. Okay. I think
From my
in
experience
hoikuen they
working
do.
at them.
Okay. Oh, of course. That's probably the truth then. But
Yeah,
yes,
it's
yeah.
first-hand
But of course,
experience.
when people think it's like a kindergarten, like people think maybe 4 years or 5 years old. But of course, the yochien that I worked at, or I am currently working at, is like they have
actually a Hoikuen,
kids
isn't
up
it?
to like. No, it's not. It's a yochien.
It's not?
And
It's called a Yochien?
it's not. Yes.
Okay.
And there are babies. There are babies there sometimes. There are kids that are 1 or 2 years old that maybe can speak just a few words. So that one is a yochien. So if it's like a educational purpose school,
Well, that's
it is interesting.
about I think there's a lot of like misnomer with these titles. 'Cause I have been to the one you work at. I went in and pitch hit a teaching a
Yes.
few months back, and I was thrown into it. Like I was asked that morning at a different job if I could go that afternoon. I was like, sure, you're in a pinch, I'll go. And when I walked in, I didn't even know the name of the school exactly, but I was like, oh, this is a daycare kind of setup from my perspective.
Oh,
So if they call
yes.
themselves a yochien, then I guess it's a pretty loose term that usually gets translated as kindergarten. But for me, as an American, kindergarten is part of the public school system.
School. Yeah,
And
same
it's
as
just 1
Australia.
year, not required, unlike 1st through 12th grade. You can opt to go or not. And in my case, I did not attend kindergarten. And I love to tell people that, like, oh, I never went to kindergarten. But I did go to a preschool, which was privately run from the age of 3, 4, 5 years old, which is much like the yochiens tend to be here. But I think you can call it whatever you want to. There's no strict rules
Right.
about it here.
Right, yes. And of course, this system or this daycare or preschool system in Japan, I think is really good. They teach lots of different manners, of course, when they're eating and drinking and playing around and things like that. I think lots of the daycare teachers sort of aren't afraid to tell off the kids. Yes.
No.
Yes, compared to I think Australia, because of course they're not your kids, so you can't like push or tell them off and say like really this is bad or things like that. So
Mm.
uh, in a way, I think it is quite good to sort of teach them lots of different things. Of course, it's quite educating, and some preschools or daycares now are implementing some English teachers to teach English, just very, very basic, of course, just with numbers and letters and things like that. So it's really good.
Yeah, I think it depends on the school, but in
Yes,
general.
as well. Yes, as well. Of course, this thing is we don't have anything like this in Australia. Of course, we have like a daycare, but I think it's a little bit more for a bit older kids, not 2 or 3, maybe
really?
4 to 5 years old, and it's
So,
very, very expensive. So parents
so
prefer.
when you say daycare, is it an education-based thing, or is it for
No,
working parents who need a
for
place?
working parents to look after
So
the kids.
what do parents with little babies under 1 year old do in Australia?
Someone
I
else
mean,
have to look after.
well, in the US, that's what a daycare is for.
Yes, but of
So,
course they might have this. They might have this in the big cities, but in Cairns they
uh,
don't really have it.
okay.
Or the daycares are so ridiculously expensive. It is the same price if you probably just stay home. I
That
think
can happen, yeah.
yes.
Do people there in Cairns typically have like home babysitters?
Have that as well, of course, yes. But of course, different people from your family might look after, or they
Yeah, if you
have
have family
time.
nearby.
Yes, family nearby, or if your husband or your wife have the time to sort of switch in and out
That
of
sounds a
looking
bit
at.
kind of like Japan. My aunt in
Mm,
the US ran a daycare out of her home for decades, and she was amazing working with special needs kids. But they were from her neighborhood, just kind of lucky for them she was there. And I think in the US, it's really common to have babysitters in your family or in the neighborhood. And in Japan, I can tell you as a working mother, if it's next to impossible to find a babysitter to like watch your kids so you can go out for an event or a date, or if you need to travel for work or something. They just barely exist. And I don't think that mentality is there, so it's hard to find something that I would feel comfortable leaving my
right.
kids in. I'm really lucky that my in-laws live here in town,
Mm,
but they're as typical, I think, of the age gaps between generations. They're
yeah.
basically my grandparents' age, quite elderly, so it's difficult for them sometimes to watch the kids for a long time.
Right.
So that is definitely a bit of a culture difference here. And if you are thinking of moving to Japan, especially ladies who might want to have children or have children, I think it's good to be aware that you might not have a social life for quite a long
Mm,
time unless you have some family that can watch your kids occasionally, or a
yeah.
husband who can switch off, which is
Yes.
also rare with the Japanese culture. Okay,
Mm.
that's over. So,
Yes. Well, in Australia, I remember when my family moved back to Australia, my mother wasn't working until my sister and I were both in elementary school, and then that's when my mother started working again. So yes, my mother looked after us most of the time. However, during high school, yes, my father was actually studying at university, so that's when my father was at home most of the time and looked after us. But to be honest, we didn't need to be looked after that time.
no, not in high
Yes,
school.
yes, but he was sort of like a house husband in a way,
Yeah,
and my
stay-at-home
mother was
dad.
working, stay-at-home dad. Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
but overall, I think daycares and preschool is really good.
Oh
I
yeah.
think. I think
How long have you been teaching at your daycare preschool?
2 months now.
Okay, so you're still a
Yes.
newbie. Do you know how
Yes.
long I've been teaching preschools in
Oh
Japan?
yeah. Yes. Plus 10 years.
17.
17. There you go.
Yeah.
Yes. 2 months
Uh,
and 17.
yes.
Yes. Yes.
So
Very
I
comparable.
oh yeah. It sounds like you've been doing a good job. I had to learn as I went, and it's been quite the education. But I currently work, well, not currently because of the coronavirus situation. Until then, I was teaching 3 or 4 mornings a week at 2 different schools.
Mhm.
And one of them is a Montessori school, which is really like a specific kind of education. And the kids, it's touted as a bilingual school.
Right.
So we have 2 hours every day of English time, and I'm the main teacher. We have another teacher that comes in on Mondays. But the kids are quite advanced in what they
Yes.
can say by the time they get to like the upper year, and it's impressive. And when I first started there was a full-time staff teacher who had spent many years in, I think, the Netherlands, and so her English was near native level, and she spoke to the children 90% of the day in English unless she was scolding them about something. And
Okay.
when she was there and constantly giving them that English opportunity, the level was like through the roof.
Right.
Since leaving and only having the native speakers there for a couple hours a day, it's not as stellar as it
Yes.
was, but it's still up there. And I'm impressed with what we do.
Pretty interesting.
Hmm.
All right. Yes. So moving on to,
Mhm.
of course, elementary school. For example, one thing, I'm not sure about America, but in Australia, we would graduate high school when we are 17.
Oh, really?
Yes. So when we go into elementary school, yes, what would we say,
old
grade
are you?
1,
Mhm.
we would be 6
Right. That's the same as here in the US.
or 5 to 6 then.
5 to 6. Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Some people would be 18, but
Mhm.
for example, so we graduate the end of November. Yes,
Right.
high school. And then the next January, I was 18.
Okay.
But
So.
some students, so for example, some students in my grade could be born in October of the same year.
Mhm.
So they would be 1 year without school when they're still 17. So I think Japan is quite the same as most countries where they graduate when they're 18. So
yeah, typically.
they would enter school when they're 6. Yeah, 6 years old.
I think I may have graduated when I was
19?
17, but
Oh.
but then I
17?
yeah, but then my birthday was like just a few days after
Oh,
graduation.
okay.
I think that's what happened. I'm pretty sure it was 17 and then 18, not the other
Right.
way around.
I mean, yes, same.
Yeah.
Yes, one
interesting.
of my good friends, he was born on November of the same year as me, and I was born January.
Mhm.
So he had a whole year of 17 without school. So he was graduating and going to university already, and he's still 17. And this is
Wow.
nothing to do with skipping grades or whatever, just
yeah, starting
early.
the year early. So in Japan, people have been like notorious for wanting their kids to start school early, and
1 year
it's
earlier.
well, the cutoff is April 1st, typically or traditionally. And so I remember hearing stories from friends that had kids here, a few decades ago, that the doctors would even be like, hey, do you want us to write their birth certificate like that they were actually born like March 31st instead of April 1st or 2nd, so they could be in the earlier
Wow.
school year. But of course, some parents actually feel the opposite, probably foreign parents more than Japanese, that they want to give their kids the extra year.
Okay.
To, so it can work either way. But yeah, if you're the youngest in the class, because of that cutoff being really strict, if you
I
do
mean,
well with academics, then that's great. But if you
I
don't, then it
guess,
can be a hard
I guess,
thing.
of course, we did it based off year. So 1998 would be my year group. So I was born in January, so I would be the first one. But there were a few people who were born in 97 in the same grade as me, like October, November, December 1997, and they were in the
Okay,
same
so
year as
a little
me.
bit
And
more
then,
flexible then.
yes, a little bit more
But you said
flexible.
you start the school year in January,
Yes,
right? So, I mean,
end of
that makes
January.
it really simple, I think,
Ah, yes.
compared to the
Yes.
US, where we start at different times depending on if it's north or south.
State. No, north or south. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
North starts in September, south is
we
usually
start
August.
different days, but just a few days.
But it's almost like a month difference.
Ah, okay.
Or at least half a month for us.
Okay. Yeah.
So I want to know, in Australia, how many years is elementary school? Like how many grades?
Ah, the funny thing was when I lived in Queensland for elementary school, we had 7 grades.
Okay.
7. And then if you include kindergarten as part of the public school, we had 8 grades.
Is that because it was rural and you had like a...
It was really weird. But now it's gone back to 6. So we have
Okay.
kindergarten and it goes from grade 1 to 6. So it's like we have
Okay, so it's
prep.
like Japan.
Yes. I think elementary school is the same, no?
Actually, in the US, at least my experience, it's 1st through 5th grade. And then from 6th, 7th, 8th, you are in middle school. And then there's 4 years of high school.
Okay.
And I
think
really
most countries
feel...
are 633.
Perhaps, and I think that might be better after like coming here and seeing how things divide, because when you are a freshman in high school at 14 years old, or maybe 13, or like early 15, the maturity level is so different compared to, you know, the 16, 17, 18-year-olds, especially when you're starting to drive.
Yes.
At, 15, 16, depending on your state, and working part-time, and it's almost traumatic, I felt, for a lot of people, just jumping from middle school to high school like that. And even from elementary to middle school, like 5th grade, I think that extra year for 6th grade will probably benefit people.
Okay.
Because we grow up way too fast in the US.
Yep.
Comparatively, I think.
Okay. So anyway, going back to elementary school, as we said, from grades 1 to 6. Yes. What is your experience with elementary schools here in Sapporo?
My first experience was actually, I think, probably 17 years ago. I got hired to teach all of the 3rd and 4th graders at Miyanomori Elementary School, which is prestigious here. They were having some foreign exchange students come, and they wanted to prepare students to communicate with them. So I led grade-wide gymnasium events to prepare them for that over the course of a couple weeks. It was a lot of fun, and I was really impressed with how communicative the kids were, and polite and well-behaved. And it was a really nice impression for me. And then my kids were both in elementary school last year together, 1st grade and 6th grade. And it still feels like that because of the COVID situation. My older child should have started junior high school, and other than going to the entrance ceremony, he has not been because of this. So he's just been being homeschooled, both of them. We had a good experience for the most part with the school PTA, which is, I think, a challenge for parents all across the world. I don't think there's any difference between here and there. You're required to do something every year for each child. And so the first year I wasn't as busy with work.
Okay.
So I volunteered to do like the really tough role that you have to do once in 6 years. And I got put on the school newspaper team.
Oh.
That was fun. But I made some friends through that experience and ended up just doing things that didn't require perfect Japanese.
Right.
Actually, I basically let my husband handle most of the education things here because it does require a pretty high level of Japanese. And in our situation, he is the stay-at-home husband or dad
Right.
slash artist, while I am the breadwinner. So I think it's a fair trade.
Okay.
So maybe I
Okay.
don't have as much input as other mothers might regarding
Yeah,
the
well,
elementary system.
I remember actually the first time my family came back to Japan for holiday was when I was in grade 4, uh, 9 or 10 years old. When is that? 4, 10 years old.
Yeah.
I remember I was like a small, chubby boy, and I visited my hometown, Kitami, and we were in Kitami for about 2 to 3 weeks, I think it was. And my parents sent me to my cousin's elementary school.
Oh,
Yes, for 2 to 3 weeks in Kitami.
Yeah.
So, very, very funny there. I was teaching the students English. I was teaching the students English, trying to remember people's names and getting to know through lots of different their system. I only know a little bit. I only remember a little bit of it. I remember there was a girl that I liked in my class and things like that. So it was fun. It was really good. Of course, I really like cafeteria food in Japan, in
Oh my
Japanese
goodness,
elementary
yeah.
schools.
Elementary
So
school
much
cafeteria
better.
food is the bomb.
So much better than Australia or even America. It's
Oh,
too
I have
oily.
to agree there. Yeah.
Yes, they have like a full set and like proper meals. Like
Yeah.
sometimes
The-
it's
The nutritionists work really hard here to
Yeah.
prepare fresh meals, and I
and
like
it's
how
so
this.
cheap.
Yeah, I think it really is. I
Yeah.
love how the students also work together. Like they eat in the classrooms typically, so they all have their own lunch sets that they bring home every week to wash,
Mm.
and you know, they'll have a certain like pair of students, I guess, typically in charge of like dishing out the food for that week, and so they really take responsibility for, you know, getting fed, feeding each other, and also like cleaning the schools. It still tends to be done by the students.
Yeah,
So-
even something like this is good. I can't imagine anything like that in the West. The
No.
students cleaning their schools.
But I think they really should have something like that if they could, because when you have a sense of responsibility, you're not
Yeah.
gonna mess it up, and you're gonna
Oh.
be like aware that you have to clean it if you make a big mess. And
Yes.
I think it would still be maybe good if they did have professional cleaners come into the schools here, and like, especially with coronavirus issues and stuff, maybe kids should not be cleaning. And they might have professional cleaners and janitors come in still, but to my understanding, it's basically the students are cleaning on a
Yeah,
fairly
most of
regular
it.
basis.
Mm.
So it's not as clean as it could be, but it's actually pretty impressive
Yeah,
what they do.
that's definitely a pro, a positive in that.
Yeah.
Yes. How about, so your older son just went through
started
grade
junior
6
high school.
and then just started junior high school. What did he have to do to get into junior high school?
Okay, so he is going to the local school, so basically nothing. There was no entrance exam, no competition to get in, and it's his elementary school and a few others feed into this, so it's a bigger school than what
Yeah.
he has been used to so far. You will hear people talk a lot about how hard students study to get into the more prestigious junior highs, and like that will be your foundation and your trajectory for the rest of your education.
Right.
They make it sound like it's a hugely important thing, and I only partially wonder at times, like, well, should we have tried to get him into a more challenging program? But he's not necessarily a super academic student. He's very artistic, just like my husband and I, and we're fine with regular education. It's certainly very good, it seems. One
Yeah.
thing that was a bit surprising, his uniform cost over 6万円, which is about $600. And we didn't, that's just for like the winter and standard stuff. Like I think there's still summer uniform things that we haven't purchased yet. And this is a public school, so it's not like a private school uniform or anything. And I wonder why they make things so like expensive, and it's kind of a monopoly, I feel, because there's only like one place you can get the uniform from. So you can't
Right.
shop around or do comparative shopping. So
Mm.
that part is a bit frustrating because it's supposed to be an equalizer so that people don't think, oh, this person's a rich kid and that person's not, you know. So that was a bit of a shock, even with just going to regular public school, how much that cost.
Right.
Mm.
Well, I mean, well, the experience I had in, well, firstly elementary school in Australia was quite good, but I went to 3 different elementary schools when I was
Me
in
too.
Australia. Okay. Yes, and all 3 were quite good. Yes, I wouldn't say anything bad about these schools. Yes, but the last elementary school I went to was the one in Cairns, and they got quite a bit of government funding, even though it was a public school. It was a public school, but they got quite a bit of government funding. So at the time when I was there, they even built like a performing arts center. They updated their sports complex and things like that. So it was pretty good. The public school was
Yeah.
pretty good, yes. And I think we had to apply for high schools, and we would get a letter from them saying if you've made it in, or you have to do some entrance exam.
Oh,
So
okay.
I got in, but I had to do an art entrance exam.
Okay.
Yes, so because when we moved into high school, we had to do a year of either art, music, or there was one more, art, music, or dance or something.
Okay.
So I chose art, so I had to do an art entrance exam, and we just had to draw some fruit basket.
Okay.
Yes, so
That
we
sounds
had to
interesting.
we had like an hour and a bit, and they just had a fruit basket with lots of different things inside, and then we just had to sketch this, and then somehow I made it in. I don't think I'm a good artist, but somehow I made it in.
So it was like an art program for your school, or was that just one
Yes.
elective?
There's one elective.
Okay, that's
Yes.
interesting.
So academically, we had straight A's, pretty much A's. So
Nice.
that wasn't the problem. And then they just like maybe they have quite a lot of art electives.
Okay.
So we had to sort of showed our art skills, and then if you are decent enough, you can get in.
Okay.
Maybe
that's
I
really
wasn't good, I
interesting.
had to change to like
Choose
music or
something
dance or something.
Okay.
Yes, but that was quite interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it does sound interesting. It's different, but kind of reminds me of my experience with high school. We don't have any kind of placement testing for public schools, but there are a lot of different programs available. So I was going to school in Florida, and in our county, we had, I think, 7 high schools, and Fort Myers High School had an IB program, which you could be taking these IB classes that you could get college
International
credit for.
Baccalaureate.
I guess that's what it stands for. I
Yes,
really
my
never
high
heard
school had
anybody.
this. My high school has this.
Okay,
No,
so that's I
yes.
finally understood the mystery of what that actually stood for.
What is it? International Baccalaureate is like
Baccalaureate.
something that if you like to go to university internationally, having this IB grade or score tends to, yes,
you with
travel internationally instead of your own Australian. Well, we call it like ATAR.
Okay.
ATAR score. Yes. So
I'm not sure that, and in my time in high school, that so many students were thinking the international route. but definitely that you were getting college credit while you were in high school.
Yeah.
However, my school was Cypress Lake, and we had some nice funding. They built a Center for the Arts school next door to ours, which was what they called a magnet school. And it was audition based. They had 5 departments from music, drama, art, audiovisual, and I think dance was the other one. And I think it was total about 500 students for the whole school coming from a district. We had about 2,000 students in my high school alone.
Wow.
And this is pulling from 7 schools of about equal size. And I was lucky. They opened the school up my sophomore year, which was 10th grade. And I wasn't in town during the summer to audition. So of course I didn't get a slot in the school, but they did send the orchestra to learn from the orchestra teacher there, because our marching band director who taught orchestra, he didn't hate us, but he didn't love us, and you could tell. And his apathy made me want to quit playing the violin my freshman year of high school. But we got an amazing teacher after that, and I did finally get the chance to audition for my senior year and got into the program. And I was learning full orchestra for one period, chamber orchestra and private practice for another, and then music theory.
Jeez.
And that music theory class was the hardest class I had my senior year, even at a freshman level. It was so intense. But it was a great experience, and I really learned a lot from that. So I love it when they provide arts in school.
During your school times, do you remember how many kids were in each class? Well, you said you had 2,000 students.
Well,
were there a lot of kids in each class?
I couldn't really tell you how many. I can tell you we had 400 odd students graduate my senior year, and a lot of people either move, drop out, and so 400 graduating, and the numbers are bigger like the lower grades you go, and so it's probably about 2,000 students in the whole school, times 4. But I don't know about Australia, if it's similar to Japan. In Japan, when you're in junior high and high school, you basically are with one class of students. Could be from 25, 30, maybe more depending on population density. In the US, from middle school, you're actually running almost like a college kind of schedule where you...
Same.
Is it the same? Because in Japan, that was so strange to me.
Yes, I think so too. Of course, for me, I was doing maths, physics, all those academic things, subjects like this.
Did you stay in a class?
And then we had to.
Or did you switch
so
classes
when we go
all
to
over the
math
place?
class, we had to go to some block on the other side of the fucking school.
But were you with the same students, or were you on your own individual schedule?
Yes, you have your own individual schedule, but because of my maths and physics and English was high grade, I tend to be with the same people.
Yeah.
Yes, because other students were also the same. But of course, I did different electives like PE, like Japanese and graphic design and things like that. And then when it goes to those subjects, it's totally different people.
Yeah. From my experience, I maybe had the same, I would have the same classes with the person maybe 3 times a day at the most. And then it would be just all over the place. And
yes, but of course
feel like that's very strange because they do stay together all day long.
Yeah, I don't understand that, because of course university is like the same system like what we have in high school. Yes, where you have to go to different places for classes. So it's good, I think, for America and Australia to have that sort of system.
I think it's really maybe good in high school. I felt it was very overwhelming to adapt to that in junior high straight away. But also in my school, we had construction all through the years where they were re-tarring the roof. So it was like a toxic environment in the hallways, literally make you sick to your stomach, and no lockers. So we were carrying these thick textbooks for each subject that I'm sure my bag weighed at least 20 pounds.
That's the difference between us. I mean, we had a lot of construction, but of course, nothing like the toxic stuff. Of course, it's just noise is the main issue.
Oh, we had a lot of trailer classrooms and
yes.
So that education quality was lacking a bit, maybe.
And because my class was one of the highest classes in grades, there were only about 15 to 20 students in our class. So yes,
that's nice.
Yes, but of course usually up to 25 to... Okay, that's one of the issues I think in Japan, when there is a class from, of course, elementary school, even these junior high schools or high school with 40 kids, around 40 kids.
Yeah, that's about the average. In my son's case, he only had one class for his grade all 6 years because they were one student shy of splitting into two classes. So that meant they had, in the first, second, third grade, I think 34 students, and then from fourth, fifth, and sixth, even if they got up to 39, they still wouldn't split.
Right.
Which I thought is a shame, because that's like a teacher's job, that you could be given with just that tiny little one number. And so they always had really full classes.
Yeah, I think in our classes in Australia, we couldn't even fit more than 30 kids in our class. Yes, there's not enough space. So
my son's elementary school is really quite spacious. With the design
classrooms?
And they've got how should I say, the design of it's pretty interesting that I've not seen before. They have an open wall into like a hallway that's almost the same width as the classroom itself, so it's really noisy because you can hear all the other classrooms happening at the same time, and that's a bit of a distraction, but it's so open that you can just walk past and anyone can see what's happening. I did feel on parent visitation day, not like his teacher, first, second, third, fourth grade were really great, but I remember third and maybe other years it was like chaos. And I didn't see how the teacher could keep any semblance of control or really educating the students well in that situation. But of course, as a teacher myself, I realize things get chaotic on parent-teacher visitation day, so try not to judge too harshly.
And just for the people out there, Australia's junior high school and high school is together. So from grade 7 to grade 12 is the same school. So that's why I'm sort of saying it generally, because it is the same school for us.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice stability, I guess. You said you went to 3 elementary schools. I think I went to 4, actually.
Okay.
But the first 2 was simply because in my town in Indiana, kindergarten, first and second grade were in one building of a certain school name, completely separate principal, everything. And then next door was the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. And so I moved in the middle of my 3rd grade year to Florida.
So it's pretty much the same school.
No, you would think so, but even though you were with the same students, it was, for me, like a completely different transition, because even though you were next door, the playgrounds were separated and just moved in a different circle. It was a bit traumatic. I remember. I don't
know about you, but the first 2 elementary schools, I barely remember them.
Really? I remember them quite well.
No, I don't remember them. It just went all so fast, and then just studying and playing and things like. Of course, specific things I remember, but the detail of the school, I only remember parts. If you tell me now what the school looks like, I have no idea. Yes.
Yeah, I remember certain things about classrooms and hallways and posters on the wall and my teachers and getting into trouble for cheating on a spelling test.
Oh.
Well, it's like the teacher had the Christmas words on the walls and was like, don't look at them while you take the spelling test.
If you ask me what my grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teachers were, I wouldn't be able to say.
I don't
I
think
don't
I could
remember.
tell you their names at this point, but I do
Oh,
remember
but the difference
some
between
details.
I finished elementary school like just over 10 years ago, and I don't remember their names. The only
Well,
names I remember is only when I came to Cairns, and then I started grade 5 in Cairns. Oh, started end of grade 5.
I think
Yes.
that's just a memory thing. Some people really don't remember their early years a lot, but I do.
Well, I think for people it seems like it's important, but it's not really. I mean, yeah, how much is elementary school very important with your life now? I mean, not really. I think when it gets to junior high school is the not the big step. I think out of high school is the biggest step. Yes.
For sure,
For
high
me.
school.
For me anyway.
I think it's your life, so it all builds. It depends on how much trauma you received. Or
Oh yeah.
maybe that's why I remember my younger education well, is because I had more trauma than you did.
No
Perhaps.
trauma at all for me, so it's all
So
gone.
yeah, very idyllic young memories for you. That's wonderful.
Oh, I
Yes,
remember getting into fights and things like that.
Yeah.
But when I look back, it's just funny. So no problem. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
But anyway, going back to
Anyway, yes.
the Japanese system. So of course now they've already been implementing the English education from at least junior high school, I think.
Yes.
For
and
most
elementary school, 5th and 6th grade, I'm pretty sure have been getting the ALT government sponsored teachers in most schools.
Okay.
And they're trying to bring it even to the younger 3rd, 4th grade, I think, but I'm not sure that it's implemented nationwide in the same way.
Okay, yes, and of course, yes, they have implemented these English teachers, English education during junior high school for 6 years, for the 6 years. However, yes, there's a bit of a problem there because not many Japanese people have confidence in speaking English. They know their reading and writing quite well, I would say. For the students that I'm teaching now online are learning English online because they studied English throughout their school, junior high school to senior high school life, but they cannot speak, so they are still studying or still learning online. And it is weird because I would say compared to other countries, maybe number one is Philippines, I think. Philippines have their English, well, maybe they have it a little bit earlier, but of course they speak mainly Tagalog, but English, they can speak English very well, and they are quite close to native speakers. So what do you think about this, Delena?
I think that the Japanese culture's approach to academia being just focused on grades and shuseki, your rank, and things that are more measurable than your fluency in a conversation. They tend to really focus on grammar. And something that was a bit of a culture shock to me when I came is hearing people talk about when they were in school having tests on the pronunciation of the and the, or a and a. And I was like, well, there might be some specific obscure rules about how to pronounce the apple or the apple. However, nobody fucking cares when you're a native English speaker. It's there is really no rule when it comes to conversation. No. I had never considered that in my entire life.
I mean, of course, there are some words the difference between close and close is the same spelling, but of course it's the different pronunciation there. But
of course there's that. But these little obscure, tiny, inconsequential things that they test people on, and if you get this wrong, that means like you're gonna get a failing score. And why are you wasting time on something like the difference between the and the, or a and And I even
Yes.
had a client in one of my narration jobs, a really big one. I can't say who. I had to go back into the studio and re-record things because I was pronouncing the and the correctly, but they wanted it to be uniform throughout,
Right.
even though it should have been pronounced one way. And to me, that it didn't actually matter.
Mm.
And then it ended up having to say some things a bit awkwardly. For example, when you have a vowel at the top of a word, like the ocean, one of them sounds
Okay.
a bit more natural. But in any case, they focus on little nitpicky stuff like that. And I don't want to say argue, but I have so many clients, the majority of them, it's almost like arguing or pulling teeth to get them to accept what the native English speaker says is correct when
Right.
it comes to a script.
Yeah, of course.
So I
And
don't know, it's
just
a
the
superiority complex.
and just the difference between us and our pronunciation is so different.
This is
Uh,
true.
yes, for all the students that I teach, at the start I say I'm from Australia, so don't be scared or shocked if my pronunciation is different. Your pronunciation is also correct, so don't worry.
Yes, I have
Yes.
always done the same. If somebody says something that sounds off to me, unless I know for sure that it's just not correct in any place, I'll say, I think that very well could be how they say it in Europe, in
Yes.
Britain, Australia, Philippines. And this other
Yes.
thing is in America, so many people speak English vastly incorrectly from how we learn it in school, and that is
Yeah.
native English. So I think they focus too much here on perfection, and people are scared to branch out. So on that topic of having 6 years of English education from junior high through high school, this morning I taught my very first university class online. And due to the COVID-19 situation, of course, we're not meeting face-to-face. So I have spent probably 30 hours preparing just for this one first class because things kept changing. As soon as I'd have it done, oh, nope, you can't use the textbook, or we're going to have to do it online. Oh, you can't have a Zoom class because students don't have access to computers or internet, maybe. And it really became...
Who's that? Who's that?
Who's what?
University students that don't have access to computers or internet? Or
Sounds
like a
little bit-
device? They can use Zoom on their phone.
Well, assuming most of them do have smartphones, but in a survey, the university told us that maybe up to 50% don't have good access. They might be on a data plan, they might not have good Wi-Fi, they can't go out, to places where students might. And the school I'm teaching at has a lot of computers on campus, and I think I heard from other staff that a bunch of students might come check out the school and go, oh, I don't need to buy a computer because I can just use one here at school. So I'm not sure, but only about half of my students actually came to the Zoom class
Got to
this morning.
update.
However, I was told just 2 or 3 days ago that the university told the students, please check your class assignment by the time your class should start. So it's they're not even going to check it until this morning. I can't expect maybe anyone to show up. So I made the lesson on demand, but about half did pop into the Zoom room, and I got to just test microphones, say hello. No one turned on their video. So that's more evidence to me of the shyness.
Yes.
I think one person did by accident for a little bit. But they came in at the very end of the time that I was there, and it was just the two of us. So of course, they didn't have to be as embarrassed, but I felt like, oh, these poor students really are just probably very overwhelmed. Despite 6 years of English education, everyone, I was saying wakanai, and I was speaking Japanese. I went against my policy because I felt the homework assignment was all in English, that would be challenging enough, but I wanted to set their minds at ease that they could communicate with me,
Right.
even if today only. And because I couldn't see them, I could only be like, hello, I see your name, and can you turn your mic on and say hi? But yeah, even with 6 years of English education, only 1 or 2 students dared to actually talk to me, and it was very briefly. So it's going to be a slow road.
Yeah, I would say the general population is like that. There are quite a few students that I teach that are in high school, that are in junior high school, and the English is really good, surprisingly. So I do think it's person to person. I think, for example,
Hold on a second, we've got a poor connection. Okay, can you start back where you were a second ago?
I think it is the difference between person to person. I think for people like that, like わかんない or of course they don't know, or I don't know, or I don't understand. For these people, they take the initiative to try and practice Japanese and try and learn in whatever way they can. But for some people, they just say, わかんない 理解できない and 終わり finish. There's no sort of after, what are you going to do about that? I don't know. So I think for lots of students are like this and they don't take the initiative. So this is also about the maturity level, I think. I'm not sure.
I was
So
thinking the same thing.
yes. But anyway, going back to high school. Yes, going back to high school. What would you say some positive things, or what would you say, have you taught in high school before?
Actually, I did teach the English club at Yoichi Hokusei High School, which is a second chance high school, and at the time was quite famous because, I don't know if you would have caught this with the timing of being here, but did you ever hear about the drama Yankee Sensei?
I've heard of it.
You've heard of it. Okay.
Yeah.
So it was super popular drama based on one of the teachers at Yoichi Hokusei High School, Yoshie Sensei, and he's actually a politician now. But he was a student at this second chance school with no uniforms, and the kids have this. To me, they looked like very normal by American standards, but in Japan, they are the rougher, as you say, Yankee style kind of kids. And he became a teacher, and it's like an underdog kind of story. And that drama was actually on air when I was teaching there. And I asked my co-teacher, I was like, hey, which one in this teacher's room is, the Yankee Sensei? And she pointed him out, and he was on the phone there in the staff room, and he looked over at me and winked at me, and I just went, oh, okay. Creepy, but
that's cool. That's cool, no?
It was cool. It was very cool, and so
not creepy.
Well, at the time, it just was a bit odd for me here in Japan.
What a cool
But yeah, I used to travel 2.5 hours each way to get there to teach a class
it's
once a
Yoichi.
week. Yeah. So I would take subway to Sapporo Station, take a train to Hokkaido, and then take a bus from Hokkaido to Yoichi, and then walk another 10 to 15 minutes. And I had to because of all the potential delays with all the transfers, I would get there usually quite early and just sit in the staff room and wait for class to start.
Jeez.
So I did that for 2 years. The students were great, and I was even hospitalized with pneumonia at one point when I was teaching there, and I still have cards that the students wrote me. So yeah, my impression of high school students in that case was really good, but I don't have much else experience. How about you?
No, not. Of course, I've had cousins go through high school, and they've had a rough time. I think definitely high school is one of the hardest times to go through in Japan, especially with all the study. Juku is another topic there. Juku is crazy, and just just going to a good high school can cost a lot of money. So I remember my cousins father, yes, had to do another job because, um, yes, because going to a good high school does indeed cost more money. Yes, which
Yes.
which is not really a good thing for, in my opinion, because rich parents can take their kids to, yes, good high schools. Of course, if they get in anyway. If they get in, yes, and yeah, so the poor people have to work more, and I mean not the poor but middle class, I would say, and then
Right.
the higher class can pay easier to go into the schools. So
I might be mistaken about this, but to my understanding, the few public high schools, which you don't have to pay, unlike private, the competition to get into them is extremely high.
okay,
And the same thing with the
yes,
public universities. I'm not sure if they really do have free ones here at this point, but I feel I've heard stories in former generations where they
yes,
had programs like that, and the competition's extremely high. I was thinking we might be able to get a little bit into the different universities here in Hokkaido, but we're getting pretty close to the hour mark here.
I
So,
mean, yes, we can sort of wrap it up. Like, I guess this episode just becomes until the end of high school. I think we can talk
yeah,
a lot about universities
for
next
sure.
time.
Yes.
Yes, but of course, between junior high school to high school in Japan is quite stressful, I think. Of course, they take these exams to go to very good high schools, and then after that, when they go from the high school to university, it's quite easy from there.
That is
Yes.
one of the bigger differences in my personal observation. In the US, graduating high school is not necessarily a walk in the park, and it really does require a lot of effort. And getting into university, it depends. If you want to go Ivy League, Harvard, Yale, or someplace like that,
Oh
or
yeah,
like a
one of those
specialty
top
school like
universities.
Berkeley, College of Music, or Juilliard, then of course it's very competitive, and you'd have a lot of entrance exams and um, processes to go through their interviews. But my university was a small private religious school, and there really was no entrance exam to speak of. So you can go to university, but graduating is a whole other thing. Like, you really have
Yes.
to work your ass off to graduate, and
Yes.
nobody's gonna just hand it to you. But here, it seems like most schools, most programs, if you get into the program, you're almost guaranteed to graduate.
Yes.
And
So
it
that's the
becomes
difference.
the
Yeah,
time where
that's
people play and finally get to cut loose and act like high school students might in our countries.
that's the difference where they put so much pressure for students at a younger age than what they should be when they actually become an adult and become more mature, and then put the pressure on there in
Yeah.
at the end of high school or in university. So from just grade 9 or end of the grade 3 junior high school is when they have so much pressure, I think, and it's not good for kids' stress or kids'
No.
just social life in general. So
Social life? Do they have?
yeah, do they
I
have a
don't.
social life? Not sure, but
Yeah, if they're in a club, that tends to be the end all be
the only,
all of your social circle.
yes,
So I kind of hope my
I
kids
remember
don't join one.
I remember going to sleep at like 9-10 p.m. when I was at the start of like high school. Yes, and yeah, early, very early
Okay.
going to bed. So, and these kids are at Juku, that's the cram
Uh-huh.
school, until like 10 p.m. and then they're coming
Yeah.
home at like 11 p.m. and then they have to wake up at like 6 a.m. again to go to school. So
Yeah.
it's crazy.
It's crazy.
Yes. But
And
anyway,
mm,
yes, talking about, of course, depending on the school, the costs are a lot more expensive. But maybe some public schools are close to free. But of
maybe
course,
you still
the
have to do
stand.
uniforms though.
Yes. I mean, this is the same as Australia. We have uniforms for schools, not in America. But yeah, at my school was close to free, other than, of
Mhm.
course, uniforms and textbooks and things like that. But of course, the standard or the ranking of their school is not the best. So of course, if you say, I go to this school, maybe people might make fun of you or things like that.
Well, I've heard as a strategy from different foreign mothers groups and parents groups online, actually, sometimes it can really work in your child's favor to get into one of the lower ranking schools but be a very high ranking student
But
instead
that
of
doesn't
being a
mean
low
anything, no?
ranking student. Well, because they have slots, like for different schools in different programs. But when you're trying to get into like college, if you're like
Ah,
the
okay,
top
in that way,
student in
yes.
your school, even though it's a lower ranking school, but you're like at the
In that
top
way,
of the
yes.
class, it can
But
often be
compare,
better
okay,
than being lower ranked at a really prestigious school.
right. But compared
So
to like in the way where maybe the kid from the lower school meets another kid from a higher school, and they say
oh yeah, the prejudice
they're in the
there.
top
I see
of
what
the
you're saying.
yeah,
Yes.
the top on the smaller school, but anyone from the prestigious school can say, I can be top in that school. Of course, that school is shit, you know. So
Yeah.
in
But
that
the
way,
universities will still maybe give them the opportunity.
I mean,
It
one of
depends.
the smartest people that I've ever met was when I went to university, and he went to a high school in the middle of nowhere in the
Mhm.
countryside. It's like such a dead school, and he was one of the top students, and he went into the university, and I think he's graduated from robotics engineering or something like that. So it's crazy. It just depends on the student. I'm definitely
It
maybe yeah.
does. Did
Yes, and
you?
sometimes the families can't afford them to go into a prestigious school. Yes,
Mhm.
so they have to deal with that school and just do their best at that school. So,
Yeah, for sure.
yes.
I was going to ask one last question.
Hmm,
Do they go by the point system? Like, a 4.0 would be a perfect grade score average in Australia?
don't know what that is.
Okay, and maybe as a US system. Basically,
Uh,
do you have the A, B, C, D, F grading
yes.
scale? Okay, so it depends on, I guess, your teacher or the school system. When I was a student, we had two styles. Some people would do very simple, like 90 and above was an A, and then like 80 and above was a B.
I
But
mean, that's
actually,
yeah.
94 to 100 would be an A, and then like 86 to 94 was a B, so a bit more tight.
Okay. Yeah.
But if you had an A, that was 4 points on the GPA, grade point average. B was 3. And it could get very detailed when you averaged it out. But if you graduate with a 4.0, and this is the
Hmm.
university system as well, then that's like straight A's. However, when I was a student, my school had honors classes, and you
Which
could
school?
get
University?
um, no,
High
the
school.
high school. High school had honors classes,
Okay.
similar to the IB program, but maybe not as intense. But because you were taking a credit-level
Ah, okay. So
class,
I think IB is the same. IB has that system, 4.0 system. I'm
so
maybe, but yes, our school, yes, my high school, public school, was just the Australian. Well, at the time it was called OP, so it was from 1 to 25. So 1 was
oh,
the top, and 25 was the lowest. But I think they've
okay, that's
converted it
interesting.
into it's Queensland was special at that time,
Okay.
yes, but now it's the same as all of Australia. It's called an ATAR
Mhm.
ATAR rating, so it goes up to 100, I would say,
Okay.
100,
And
and of
100
course
is
you have
good,
yes,
or okay. So
yes, and for example, if you need 97 plus if you want to become a medicine or law student for the top
okay.
universities.
Hmm.
So quite strict. And my score overall was like 84.
Okay.
Yes, so 84 was uh, probably just like business level,
Okay.
or I could go into engineering for some countryside universities and things like that, but nothing close to like doctor or medicine or anything like that. Maybe like sports science I could get into,
Okay,
but
that's a really
yes,
interesting
nothing.
system that you have that like this score equals this kind of career path or ability. I don't think
Yes,
we
you
have
need this
anything quite
score if you want to enter, if you want to do a medical degree. Yes,
right.
you need this score. Yes, and this university chooses this score because, of course, lots of people want to study medicine at this university, so
Mm,
their scores become higher and things like that. So,
right. I think there's a lot more mitigating factors with most U.S. universities system, but we had the 4.0 GPA, grade point average system, but because of
mm,
honors classes, our valedictorian graduated with a 5.0, which meant straight A's, all honors classes for all of the academics. I graduated with a 4.14 adjusted GPA.
okay.
And out of the 400 students that graduated with me, they had 40 seats up on the stage where they were handing out diplomas for the top
Mm,
students, and I was in the second to last seat. So my experience in high school was I tended to be in the more advanced classes, but I was like one of the worst students, so I didn't have a lot of confidence about my
okay.
intellect because I was with the guys that ended up being doctors and lawyers and from really, oh my god, really rich families living
And
in
you became
Florida.
a musician.
I did. A musician and a teacher and a movie star, kind of. I miss traveling for work. I should be somewhere in Hokkaido right now doing video for the cherry blossoms.
But to be honest, how much has this university or this high school score, yes, impacted on your life now?
Now, well, getting into Japan, for one thing, you really do need
Okay,
a university degree. And
yes. But this
that is a
4.14 and the second last student in your class is like,
I think for me, just having been extremely shy as a child, and this is why I remember my younger years, because I had no friends, and a lot of it was quite traumatic. And in high school, I started to gain some confidence, but looking back, like, hey, I actually was one of the smarter students. So other than that, no, doesn't really make a big difference.
no, no. And the, yeah, the high school, when I graduated high school, it made me go to university, and it showed me that I didn't like what I studied. Well, I studied engineering in university, and it showed me I didn't like maths and science, even though I was good at it. And
Yeah.
I quit that, and then I just went to a technical college with all the, not the dumb people, but not the very well educated people. And anyone can go to technical college and study if they put in the effort. Yes, and put in the time, and don't be lazy, and don't slack off and things like
That's what we
that.
call good
And
people there.
yeah,
Literally, like,
yes,
yeah, the hard
yes,
work.
and doing
Anyway,
this,
yeah.
and yes, doing this, and then after that, I found the job in Japan. So, to be honest, high school, I guess, helped me in a way that going to university wasn't the right path for me. And maybe in the future, I might go back to university and study something else. But at the moment, I don't like studying, and
Uh-huh.
I prefer hands-on and sort of studying while working in a way.
Oh, for sure. I
Yes.
myself am really into further education, so I even signed up for a course from Arizona State University uh, to teach English online on like a second language learners to prepare myself for this university class, and I did pick up some good pointers in the first couple modules. I
Okay.
also took some classes from Berklee College of Music a few years ago, the same program. Was really great education in some ways, and some of the classes, like some of the music theory, was not my forte. So,
Okay.
but
All
definitely
right.
always want to continue learning. But if you want to work in Japan, unless something drastic changes, you are going to need a 4-year college degree to get a working visa, typically.
University
so do
degree.
keep that in mind. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think we've really covered a lot of aspects of education, at least.
Yes. I think there was a few topics that we didn't cover, so
We'll come
apologies
back
for
to
that.
it.
Yes, of course.
So-
Any questions or comments down below, and
Yes.
I will talk to some of my students, and they also watch our podcast
I'm
for
hoping some
English.
of mine will.
For like practicing listening English. So yes. So anyway, so anything goes, right?
Yes.
And maybe next time I might have a video soon about some cherry blossom places. We might do some live. Yes.
Yeah, I
some
did
live.
one the other day when I was in Chuoku and posted it to our page. From mine, the cherry blossoms are already quite in full bloom, so they're going to be gone quickly.
But the weather's
Especially
shit.
raining today. Yeah,
Weather's shit
that's
now,
unfortunate.
so
So I hope you can get some nice viewing in when you go on your cycling ride.
yes.
If you have any questions, of course, you can comment wherever you're watching this video, but we do have an email address at anythinggoeshokkaido@gmail.com. Also, you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Anything Goes Hokkaido. Shinya tends to be active on Instagram at shinsta_grams. And I am now Delina Miyazaki on all the platforms. So please check us out. And we really want to hear what you thought of this more serious topic-based long-form episode. Tell us what you think, and we look forward to the next opportunity to see everybody.
Yes, I might, for the next episode, of course, go more in depth in university. Of course, we both have some experience. I know a girl that is studying in Hokkaido University right now, so we might be able to get her on the show for a little bit and get her opinion.
That would be really cool. I was even thinking, I know so many veteran professors who are teaching at university, so I would like to see if we could get a few of them to maybe do, not necessarily a round table, because that would be challenging in this without getting on a Zoom call, but maybe just a couple of minutes video interviews or such.
Yeah.
So we'll see who we can get on the show. And
Sounds
if you
good.
would like to be on our show or promote your business, also please check out our Patreon accounts. We are coming up to our limit on free storage for the audio podcast, so we'll start having to pay for that soon.
Oh.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Right.
Yes.
So sponsors, we're looking for sponsors, and we are looking for like Sapporo beer or sake sponsors for when we can finally get together for our sake episode.
This will happen eventually anyway, even if there is no sponsors.
Even if there are no sponsors, for sure.
If there are no sponsors.
We would like sponsors.
I'm getting weak in alcohol lately, so I need a drink. Yes.
Well, we could always get on and just drink from home and share. I even brought blue tea today from BA, Blue Pond gimmick thing. But
what's the difference?
Oh, it's just, it's a blue pea flower herb tea that you can buy at BA.
Does it change the flavor?
It tastes like lemongrass and blue pea flower. It's just an herb tea. But it's pretty.
Not good for me.
That's okay. You have your likes.
Yes. Oh, of course. If there's a time where we can do maybe an online drinking session, of course, David can hop into the call. We can have our own specific drinks that we like, preferably Japanese drinks, and we can do a tasting. Yes.
I think a virtual nomikai would be a really good idea. We might have to
Yes, if we all have our specific drinks, we can have our own each, of our specific drinks, or I don't know, if there's a drink that you like, I might buy it as well, and then we can drink it together and see what's our
Be fun.
opinions. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I like that. Let's. If you have a favorite Japanese kind of alcohol, sake, beer, etc., please post it in the comments below. Let us know, especially if it's Hokkaido based.
And please not strong zero. Strong zero is not good. Everyone knows strong zero is not good. I will still drink strong zero if people want me to drink strong zero, but it's not really famous. I would like to drink something more special and more something that's out there that not many people drink in a way. So yes.
I
Anyway,
have a few things in my liquor cabinet that are just itching
there
to
you
get
go.
out. So.
There you go.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, Shinya,
Yes.
thank you for this episode and your time, and it's a great
Yes.
idea.
Yes. Thanks
And
to
to all of our
everyone
viewers,
listening.
yes. Thank you.
Yes.
We appreciate
See
you
you
so
guys. See you guys soon.
much. All right, stake.
Once again, a huge thank you to everyone that made this episode of the Anything Goes Hokkaido video podcast possible. Thank you for your patience during this coronavirus situation where our audio and video is not always what we would like it to be. And if you would like to be a sponsor or a patron of our podcast, please visit patreon.com Anything Goes Hokkaido. And we look forward to seeing you with our exclusive content there. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you would like to see us on Instagram and YouTube, we are Anything Goes Hokkaido.